Hey guys, welcome to Sketch Today. Today, I'm going to be shifting to digital and show you how I'm going to envision these on my face. Now, if this is your first time, I want you to hit that subscribe button and turn on alerts because we go live 3 times a week. In fact, tomorrow I'll be going live on Wednesday, so hit that bell and make sure you get notified so you don't miss the opportunity to chat in real time and sketch with me. Also, you can find me on the socials. I'm at sketchaday.com, and be sure to visit sketchaday.com this week because I actually released some new Procreate brushes and you'll want to check those out. So I'm using Procreate here and I have up an image of my face on my iPad. So if you guys are sick of seeing me, too bad. I'll actually make the opacity of this layer really light so that I'm not staring at you guys the entire time. But the idea here is to sketch my sunglasses that I envisioned, and here's my marker sketch that I'm using as reference for you guys to see. This is the design we settled on: a wood bridge with extended frame ends or end frames, rivets, and some subtle details about the fillets that I want on the glasses. And I'm going for polarized lenses as well. Now I'm hoping the guys at Banton can do a wood bridge, but we'll see what happens. Okay, here I'm going to just start by, let's sketch with a red. And like I mentioned, I have my new brushes here, so I'm going to jump to my pencils. This is a sub pack of the main pack. If you do get the main brushes, you'll get like 30, but I can just hop to the pencils here. There's the original stencil, but some others. I'm going to go with the rough. And again, just trying to envision what these glasses look like. So two what appear to be circles, but really they're ellipses. Okay, and I'm trying to just envision what these frames look like. So I'm going to position these just a little bit lower, and now I can sketch in my bridge right here, and I did want that to be wood. Now if you watch the first video, you'll notice that I actually used a template for my circles in that video. It's a little bit easier here in Procreate, and I'll show you how to do that as well. Now, if you don't have Procreate, you can also use these methods or techniques in other apps for the most part if they are digital. So once again, just kind of comping in and sketching what this product might look like on my face. I do like round glasses, so I'm pretty excited at what these are looking like right now, even as I'm starting. So let's map out some reflections on the lens. That'll help obscure my face a little bit. And I'm actually going to distort this slightly because I need the far lens to just be a little bit smaller, meaning the lens over my left eye. And I want to make sure the axis is okay here. I may have to tweak where this arm goes, but I'm already getting a sense for what these might look like. Like I said, I like thick and chunky lenses whenever possible. That's kind of my jam. And we had our bridge piece here, just having a nice punch through and intersection, carrying that through on our red pencil sketch. I do want to be mindful of where my nose is in this sketch. Let's go ahead and turn up the opacity on my photo, and I'm just gonna sketch, actually, okay, turn up the opacity, and now go to my brush and sketch in the line, not on my face layer, but on this layer where my nose is, because I'm gonna have a little bit of obscurity or obscuring of a portion of the glasses as they wrap up to my nose. So I just want to make sure I kind of document and map where that keep out area is for these glasses. And I've kind of changed my mind a little bit on the shape of the far lens here, so I'm just going to go to warp and make this a little bit bigger now, like so. And that feels pretty good. That feels pretty good. So 2-finger tap on the layer, slide to the left, and now I can work on a crisper, cleaner version of the drawing. To do that, I'm going to go to my original stencil here, and let's start by sketching some circles. In Procreate, you can freehand those circles. because this is a more final presentation sketch, I'm actually going to allow the app to kind of help me here. I don't even have to get it perfect, but I do want it to be a circle. So I'll make sure that we have a nice circle there. And I like that. I'm gonna just duplicate. If I select with the arrow, swipe down, I can copy and paste. Now this is on a new layer, and I can drag this over and scale it to where it needs to be. Now, yes, it's not going to be a perfect circle. It'll be an ellipse, but the perspective is so subtle that I'm not really too worried about that. So I'm going to continue duplicating and offsetting these shapes. So there's one offset, and let's just keep doing that. Swipe down, copy and paste, offset back, and now I have some thickness to the frame. And with that thickness and the position of the frame and the position of those lines, I can map out the shape of the frame as well. So let's do that a couple more times here. Copy and paste, scale this down. Now I have an offset. And if you're careful, you can just keep doing this. And now we have an offset on that front frame. Duplicate again. Oops. Duplicate, copy and paste. And now I'm going to move this one. So this now becomes the inside of the frame. Now it looks super messy, and I probably didn't need to have these over here. So I'm just going to work on this one, and then I'll transform over and duplicate. So let's see which lines we need to erase. So I need to erase this line here. And again, if you're careful, you can get that nice offset in. And we'll make this sketchy where it needs to be sketchy. And now I need to erase this line. And as you can see, we now have a little bit of thickness to the glasses. I've erased a little bit here leading into this line because I'm actually going to try and fudge and correct a little bit of the misplacement there as I was working. Same thing on the bottom. All right, so now that I have this lens, like so, let's go ahead and do those corrections. And like I said, I want to throw in some lines here. So I like sketchy sketches. I don't know about you guys, but there's something nice about when a sketch feels like a sketch. And sketching in where those highlights might be. Now I'm going to, take these layers, merge them down, or I can put them in a group, but I'll go ahead and merge them. I'm feeling fairly confident about the shape and where they are right now. And if I need to modify something like the position or shape of a line, I can always make a selection here and then go to my transform. Let's do freeform, and I'll pull this in ever so slightly here and even do a little bit of warp. Okay, so not perfect. I'm going to tell them I want these to be circles. They're going to do all the CAD and make it work. CAD means computer aided design. Okay, duplicate this layer. And now I can just drag this other lens over, scale it down. Oops, we're on freeform there. I want to do uniform first. Scale it down. And I'll position it where, and even rotate ever so slightly, like so. And now with the warp, I'll just pull in a little bit on this side and make sure that this is kind of matching the initial sketch that we had. Again, trying to just keep it sketchy and keep it loose. So now I'll connect the bridge pieces here, or the bridge piece rather, like so. And I'm going to throw a little curve in because this might be resting on my nose and I want it to feel comfortable. Now it does feel like this needs to be a little bit wider. Again, this is where the expertise of the Banton team will come in handy, just to make sure that this fits me properly. But for now, I'll just go ahead and let's make a selection, and I'm going to move this over and we'll reattach those lines. Okay, so a little bit over like that. That feels a lot better. And now I'll sketch these center lines in and connect these shapes just like so. All right. Now I'm not going for a photorealistic rendering here or sketch, but rather something that'll give me a sense of placement, for the lens or the frame and how this is gonna fit on my face. That's why I'm using a picture of myself. So again, apologies if you're tired of looking at me here. All right, and then a little bit of a line like so. And let's continue over to the other side where we have this extension of the frame end. We have our fillet and a little bit of the frame kind of ghosted in here. If I really wanted to, I could turn myself into a sketch and perhaps tone things down a little bit, but we'll work with what we have here and I think it'll be okay. So now just erase a little bit of what we don't need. Some of these construction lines here, like so, nice crisp edge. I'm trying to resist the temptation to fillet this edge, but I do want it to be fairly crisp. It's probably going to be a tiny fillet, but I do want it to be fairly crisp, and then have a nice generous fillet on this side of the shades, like so. And let's take a look. Looks like this one's a little bit, you know, if I were drawing perspective lines here across my wrinkles and the top of my head, this frame on this side's a little bit off. So here's where digital tools come in handy. Again, I can make a selection, tap on warp, and tweak this shape until I'm satisfied with it and it feels okay. All right, so now that we got the sketch done, I'm going to delete that red layer, red blue, and above my face again on a new layer, I'm going to switch to my Sketch-A-Day brush pack 1 and use this round brush to kind of just fill in the frames. And much like the marker, I am starting with a tone or shade that I can go darker or lighter with. So this is probably a 70% gray, meaning I can go darker with this gray or lighter. So I'm going to get a base color in, and then I'll use my digital markers to do my highlights and so forth. When I'm working digitally, I try to work in a non-destructive way. In fact, one thing we can do with the digital sketch here is I can play with some other ideas once we get to a place where we have our base rendering and colors picked out. I'm even going to shade in this bridge and just connect all of this together. So shading this in, nice and opaque, completely opaque brush. We can overpaint a little bit and we'll erase what we don't need when that time comes. But I do want to get a nice clean outline here. As clean as I can, doing this somewhat freehand with the exception of those frame circles. All right, so there's my face. Let's zoom in so you guys can see a little bit better. There we go. And now I'm going to do the lenses. Well, because I isolated this essential area, it should be a little bit easier to do the lenses, but actually now that I think about it, I do want to have kind of a deep purple or reddish look to these lenses. So what I'm going to do here is just go ahead and fill in like so, ever so carefully. Just watch those sketch lines because the lens is actually going to slightly overlap the frame, meaning the frame has thickness to it. So that's why I wanted to freehand sketch this, and it's really subtle, but I am sketching or shading this in with that little overlap. And if you're worried about accuracy, just rest your palm, or the pad of your hand rather, on the screen, and you should be able to use that area, whether it's the pad of your hand or your pinky finger, as a pivot on the screen, and that should help you fill in these areas. All right, so now we're not looking at my eyes anymore, and I'll go ahead and fill in this other side, which would be the left side of the frames. Just being very, very careful. We'll actually kick back the opacity on this deep purplish black as well, to suggest some translucency or transparency to the shades. All right, and that same little trick there, because we have a little overlap of where the frame would meet that lens, I'm just gonna paint over that ever so slightly. All right, So there we go. Now we have the shades and the frame. And I'm gonna go ahead and crank back up the opacity on the sketch itself, and I'll have to do some cleanup after the fact. Remember, we don't want the glasses here to necessarily overlap my nose. I'm gonna turn off the gray as well so I can kind of see which lines I need to erase. Back to my sketch layer. Whenever I'm rendering, I keep that sketch layer on the top as much as possible. So it's something you guys can try. Again, it just helps me be non-destructive in my approach to drawing and sketching. All right, oops, I erased a little bit too much there. I'll go ahead and replace that line, however, with the line of my nose, just so that I know where everything needs to be, like so. All right, and now when I turn on my gray, I have a better idea of where to erase so that this feels appropriate, just like so. And with the base color in, it's really easy and fairly simple to then finish out this rendering, okay? And maybe we'll do kind of a mix of photo and sketch. Okay, so just sketching to recreate some of the photo here. Maybe it's just some outlines. You know, get creative and see what works for you when you're sketching. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe just a couple sketch lines here. If we don't like it, we can always change it later. Not a problem. But these are meant for me, so I did want that somewhat accurate reference. Okay. So here I have an option. Now, because I painted this opaque, I can hit select, and I'm gonna jump to my new marker brushes, and I have a few options: a real marker, smooth, clean marker, blending, and dynamic. And each of these sets does come with the original stencil as well. So if you just wanted the markers and a stencil, you can get that as a brush. So let's start with the lights, and I'm gonna shade in some highlights here on the top and on the top of this lens as well, and the arm, just like so. On a new layer, because I don't want to mess this up too much, let's do some highlights on the frames themselves. We do need to go a little darker with these frames, but using these marker brushes are pretty awesome. They definitely have a real paper feel to the texture you get from the brushes. So I'd love to hear what you think. If you do try them out, definitely drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Okay, now let's do some darks. So we've done the lights, now let's do some darks. Same selection. So right under here, for example, where we have this curve, I'm gonna make that kind of dark and lighten up toward the round. On the side of the frames, leading up to my ear, making that a little darker. Under the bridge. Is that a Red Hot Chili Peppers song, I think? Under the bridge. All right. And maybe this is our version that is completely acetate. So the entire frame is acetate in this case, but still possesses the geometric qualities that we're after. All right, let's go a little darker on the side here and do some blends. But I do like these marker brushes because they have a very natural feel, and I love working with natural media. It's kind of my thing. It's my jam. Okay, so now I have the frame in place. I'm gonna go ahead and deselect. We'll add some shadowing to my face as well. I'm gonna work on the lens itself. To work on the lens, I have these really cool airbrushes, but before we do that, let's go ahead and add some artifacting to the lens. Artifacting just means that there's perhaps things in the environment that are reflecting into those lenses. As part of the mega pack, or if you purchase the original brush pack, I do have this inker pen, and this inker pen is pretty cool. You can get some nice, crisp, solid lines. Okay, no opacity, that kind of thing. And much like the marker sketch we did, I want this to feel like colors in the environment or things are being captured in this shiny lens. So really hard to see here. Maybe I'll go ahead and lighten up this layer so you can see what I'm kind of painting here, because this will be very subtle and hard to see, but maybe something like this kind of happening in the lens. And you can get creative and expressive with it, but again, the idea is that there are perhaps things in the environment that are being reflected either into the frame, as you can see I'm doing here, just adding a bit of hard reflections on the frame, or it might be on the glass or the lenses themselves as well. All right, so a little bit of something there, maybe something on each of these lenses. I like to keep my stuff sketchy and loose, like I said, as much as possible, because I'm not even really sure we can do what I'm proposing here. Okay, I don't want to forget about these rivets, so I'm just going to put 2 white dots on the glasses, right on the frame ends, just 2 white dots, and we'll revisit those as part of the final sketch. I'm going to go ahead and crank the opacity back up. Not entirely dark, but mostly. And I'm going to set the layer blending mode to, let's do multiply. So that way you can kind of see my eyes, but they're not overwhelming. Now I do need to incorporate some reflections on the top. And to do that, I'm going to go to my original brush pack again with this round brush. And let's use some assisted drawing. So draw and hold, and then let's connect these two. And I want to make sure that this layer is actually above my reflections that I've been mapping out. Okay, so just like that. Now I can drag and drop a color into that shape. So same thing here. We're going to use, come on. That was interesting. I think my program got a little messed up, so I'm gonna have to back out here. Let's go back in. All right, got a little messed up on the undo history. Now it's not drawing. Let's make love and then fall asleep. All right, so same thing on this side. Let's draw an arc like so. Let it kind of figure out what we're trying to do. And then I'm going to complete that shape. Drag and drop my color. Okay, and now I have that reflection. I do want to pull this to the very top layer though, because that's going to help it feel cleaner. And now what's going to happen is toward the light source, we're going to have some intensity. So let's go ahead and adjust the opacity here, and then create the intensity with whatever light source is happening with these airbrushes. So again, part of my brush pack, I created these new airbrushes, and I have these soft air highlighters that I can use to really create something representative of what a real reflection in this environment would look like. All right, so I want it to be really intense up the top here, because that's where my light source is. Okay, like I said, top and to the right, and it just so happens I took this photo in my studio, so I do know that there's an intense light source to the top and the right in this photo. So I'm going to throw that in, but also just play with the opacity. Okay, just like that. And in fact, what I'll do here in Procreate, you can create a mask, and now I can take a soft, clean airbrush with black and mask what I don't need as part of this reflection. And if you're careful and pay attention to what you normally would see, you can come up with some pretty neat reflections. Just go subtle where you need to, and make sure you have that contrast as well where you need to. Okay. I do want to tweak the artifacting that's happening. So back to my mega pack, I have the inker here, and let's go ahead and sketch in just a couple lines above the white right there, and clean up a little bit of this boundary like so. Okay, just like this. Boom. And if we want to as well, you know, maybe there's something also bright that we want to throw in there. To do that though, I'm going to jump to my original stencil. I know this is a lot of brushes. Hopefully you guys are keeping up. If you do want to try these out, definitely use the link in the video description. You'll get a special discount for those of you who watch this video. And if you want to try out those brushes. Okay, just on the edges here, adding some highlights. I'm not really paying too much attention to the color of the light in the room, but more so just trying to come up with a sketch that represents what these might look like on my face. So again, working from that paper sketch. Actually, I'm not going to get too much white right there. It's going to happen on this side. But working with that paper sketch and trying to translate that on my face. Really powerful that you can do this in Procreate, right? Just like that, a couple spots, like so. And now I have the opportunity to play with a bit of what's called CMF, or color, material, and finish, with regards to these glasses, okay? And before I forget, let's go ahead and add some shadow to my face. So I'm going to pick the Mega Pack again, and let's play with this blending marker. It has a little texture to it, and I want to make sure the layer that I'm using here is set to either color burn or multiply. Let's start out with multiply, and right under the frame here and above my face, not below. So tap, drag this layer up, and now I can just start to shade where the glasses might be in contact with my face. And this marker is pretty great because it's very subtle. It has texture, but if I press a little harder, I can get that darkness I want, okay? And if I contour this right, as you can see, these now feel a bit more like they're on my face, like so. Okay, just like that. Oops, not on top there, but more so like this. And kind of want to respect the contours of your face. So if you know any anatomy and how your body is shaped, your head specifically, this is a lot easier to do because you'll know where to put those shadows. Just playing with adding some shadow to my nose, but I'm gonna leave it as is. Okay, so this is kind of the look I'm after. I like chunky, I like simple, I like geometric, and I do need to just make these rivets seem more three-dimensional. So I'll do that here, just a little shadow. Again, not entirely sure what we can do. If we can do stainless steel or copper, that would be awesome. So for the bridge of the glasses, I want to make a new layer here. And back to my original brush pack, this round brush, we're gonna just color block. So with this gray, or we could even use a lighter. Let's use a tan actually. So something in the reds here, maybe a little less saturated. And let's go a little yellower, something about there. And now I'm just gonna paint this in right here, because again, I wanna see if they could do like a wood nose bridge on the glasses. That would be pretty cool. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna go up, drop that in, like so. Now, throw a couple lines on, and this will become a base for something like wood. So I can throw in some wood grain here, type thing, like so. And on a new layer, I'm gonna make this new layer, oops. I'm gonna make this new layer multiply. And now with my marker brush right here, we can reduce the size and also just paint on top. Let's Just make sure this shows through. It's a really small brush. All right, that's better. So just adding a bit of darker value to where these grain marks might be, and jumping back to the stencil, maybe a few speck marks as well on the frames, and I can zoom in and show you what I mean, but just a couple little speck marks here on this wood bridge, like so. And on the top, I want to make sure that this is really light, so I'm going to go light up the size here, and on a new layer, let's go ahead and just add a little bit of white there. On the bottom, we're going to have some shadowing happening, so I'll use my marker to shade that in. Just nice and dark. Whenever we have a surface changing direction, we want that to be nice and dark as well. And if you don't believe me, take a look around your room that you're in and see if that's true. Okay, so then I can look at that option, and if I want to group these together, make a group, and I can turn that on or off. I do want to add a little bit of a highlight. I neglected to add on the front here. I have this smooth, clean marker. Let's go ahead and hide that wood bridge and shade in just a little bit of a nice bright highlight there. Okay, and on my nose, just to kind of tie that in. You know, maybe I have a little oily nose today, and you can turn that on, and you can kind of see how it's easy to iterate if you have a design idea and you're trying to just kind of look at options. Okay, super powerful tool if you're working digitally. Highly recommend doing comps like this and just playing with your presentation. And I could go on and do another one here. You know, if I wanted this to be something like an aluminum or brushed stainless or something like that, then let's go ahead and go back to my mega pack, actually pack 1. This round brush, I like it because it's just really good at quickly filling in an area, nice and solid. Okay, and go ahead and fill this in like so, just like that. Drag and fill, and now I'll just take like a gray marker with the stencil and start to shade in a little bit here. If there's an edge, for example, like so, just like that. And I want this to feel, like I said, feel like steel or some sort of metal. So all the shading here, I'm just gonna do this more with an airbrush. So now I'm using an airbrush. Go back to the mega pack, or actually my airbrush pack here, because I do want a tighter highlight right here. And let's go ahead and darken the inside edge. And now I can add a little highlight to the top of that bridge, and let's go ahead and darken up on the inside here as well, just to create this quick comp. Again, if you're trying to compare designs, and if you want to do brushed stainless, you could do it by hand. I feel like doing it just for fun. So just making a little brush pattern here with the brush, or you could find a texture online, drop it in, that works too, if that's something you want to do. But I just felt like doing this by hand, so that's kind of how I would go about getting that texture by hand. And where the highlight happens on the bridge, let's put in some white strokes like so, just really subtle, really small, and now we have kind of this stainless texture on this bridge, right? So that's how I am comping my glasses. Again, I have this sketch on paper, and I've taken this design and visualized it on my real face, so I kind of have an idea of what I'm gonna get. If you're not comfortable drawing on your face or staring at your face, you can always desaturate and lower the opacity of that layer and then draw things in. To finish off, let's just create a general vignette on this photo of me. So using a large soft airbrush and black, I'm just going to paint in on the edges. We can play with the opacity, but this is going to help create a bit of focus on my face and where the design is. Okay, just like that, nice soft gradient. We can play with the opacity as well, so no fear, just to kind of darken up and play with the lighting, like so. And like I said, on the layer, 2-finger tap, and now I can play with how bright or dark that is. All right, and let's go ahead, select off, and I'll zoom in so you can kind of see once again. Well, hopefully you guys were able to learn something, and hopefully you had fun. I love using Procreate. I love using paper, pen, markers, whatever. It really doesn't matter. I just love drawing, and I'm so thrilled and excited to see what this turns into. And I promise to show them to you once I get them. And thanks for being a part of this wonderful experiment. I'd love to do more projects like this. So if you're interested, definitely hit me up. Also, if this is your first time watching, or even if you're returning and you haven't yet, definitely hit subscribe and turn on alerts, because tomorrow we are going live with our 3 times a week show where I'll chat and sketch and take your suggestions. So definitely hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, turn on those alerts so you don't miss it. Come say hi on the socials. I am at sketchaday.com on Instagram, and I'm at Daily Sketches on Twitter. You'll want to check out my brushes this week. I just released them, and those are the brushes I used for this video today. And if you use the code in the description, you'll get a small discount on your purchase. And thank you so much for the support. Well, that's it for today, guys, and we'll see you next time right here on Sketchaday.